Okay. Sorry, I'm not allowed to drink tea yet.
No.
I'm not allowed to drink tea yet.
Welcome to the first episode of Oktay with a T. Today we have Arkadiusz here from RKDS, Real Knowledge Diverse Solutions. Is that right?
That's right. You had to think about that.
Real Knowledge
I
Diverse
hope he doesn't
Solutions.
get that wrong.
And also a good friend. We work together, so we thought we'd come up with a video and share our ideas. So,
Thanks
welcome.
for having me. Can I drink my tea now?
Of course you can. As you'll know, we've got Turkish tea today.
Cheers.
No one anything
Oh, do I have to?
You can take a look.
I'm allowed the spoon now. Okay.
Just so it doesn't poke in your eye.
Yum.
How do you like the Turkish tea?
It's yummy. It's good.
So, today we've got some questions for Arkadiusz. We're going to pick his brains, we're going to get some knowledge from the inside of the financial services industry, see what we can give to you guys as tips, and you can then better your financial position. So, Arkadiusz, you specialise in young advice. What is it about millennials or young people you like working with?
I guess when I was working for firms prior to working for myself, there was always a focus on high net worth clients, and it's still seen. Everyone's like, you got to see high net worth clients, older clients, clients that want to do big things. And I guess when I was in that sector, no one really catered for someone like me. So moving into that, and sort of to give you a backstory, I was in a situation where I was on a 6-figure wage. I was earning good money, and I was blowing all my money, and I could have potentially bought a property, and I didn't know what to do, right? So I didn't know how to invest my money. I didn't know who to speak to. I didn't know how to save my money. And with that, I went and approached, different firms and different advisors and different banks, and everyone was like, "Oh, sorry, like you're not the right fit. You're not the right fit." So I guess I saw a gap to help people that were in my situation and people that, are out looking for help. And the thing I feel like with the younger generation, they really want to be helped, and they're really, they're really taking on that information, and they really appreciate it, and they're actually doing things with it.
Yeah.
So what I find as well is, with an older client, I am younger, it's quite hard for us to relate.
Yeah.
Whereas with a younger audience, not only, do I understand their situation, but we're also growing together. So I think to answer that initial question of what do I enjoy about it, I enjoy watching us grow together. So that's the biggest thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And how do you see millennials or this new younger generation, how will they impact financial services in the future?
Okay. I think the biggest thing is I guess with my generation, the generations younger than us, is we really seek transparency.
Yeah.
We really want to know what's going on, why it's going on, and how you came to that answer.
Yeah.
So I think, with the generation, with Gen X even, for example, they're happy to just employ a professional because they have the professional tag.
Yeah.
Whereas with the younger generation, not only are they seeking their own answers, but they're wanting to know where the answers came from.
Yeah.
So I think the younger generation is really triggering a change in the financial services industry where everyone needs to be transparent.
Yeah.
And also there's going to be a lot more accessibility to this. And we're already seeing this with apps, with apps that, can sort of plug into your bank account and can give you a visual of your budget. You no longer need to see a financial advisor for a budget. Exactly. So I think the change is more a technology-based one, and using, tools rather than people for financial advice.
Do you think the older generation should worry about this new transparency that's coming through, that's required from the younger generation?
Should the older advisors worry, or should the clients worry?
The advisors.
Yes, 100%. And we're already seeing that with the Royal Commission.
Yeah.
We're already seeing that worry. I think it's one of those things now, as an advisor, if you are an older advisor looking to continue your business for the next 5 years, in 5 years there is going to be some sort of disruption.
Yeah.
But if you can't adapt to transparency, you adapt or die, quite simply. So yeah,
which is the blog we wrote,
yeah.
well, I wrote last week, which was innovate or die.
Yeah,
So
100%.
why do you think the younger generation gets such a bad rap
Do we?
from other generations?
Do we? What's the rap?
Oh well, I can get the list.
You get the list out.
They feel like, well, no, we've seen terms like, you know, they're not committed, they're not loyal. Those sort of things are being thrown around in the media. I don't agree with them. I just feel that people don't understand the millennials. But what's your take on it?
I think I have the most loyal customer base seen in the financial services industry, so I can't relate to that. I think I could say a lot about an older generation, right? And I could put sort of key points and what I think of them, and maybe slightly the generation older than mine, maybe they're privileged because they're going to receive a massive inheritance and all that sort of thing. So supposedly we have commitment issues. Okay. So I guess that may be because we have accessibility to better things all the time, especially with the financial services industry.
Yeah.
So in terms of commitment issues, what, like committing to a bank, why would you commit to a bank?
When there's always better options.
Yeah, I guess that's the mentality. So I guess that's true. Maybe we do have commitment issues, but not necessarily to people. I think our connection to people is a lot stronger, and our community is a lot stronger, and that can be seen with things like Uber or Airbnb, where we're sharing and we're trusting. So loyalty and trust, I think we don't lack that. Maybe we just lack trust and loyalty to products rather than people. So maybe that's a misunderstanding. But I think we're more trusting, we're more committed, we're more loyal, and that's clearly seen with the group environment that we're setting, especially with things. We're getting into strangers' cars. And we're even doing pool now where other strangers get in the stranger's car and we're sharing,
But
so
taxi drivers have never been our friends either.
no. So yeah, there's no commitment to taxi drivers. So yes, but we have a
they could
commitment.
also be a stranger as well. A taxi driver could be considered a stranger as well.
That's right. So I guess our commitment to products may change, but I guess as a product you need to be adaptable to that, right?
Yeah.
So as a product or a professional, if you can be adaptable and you can show something that's always in their best interest, to a millennial's best interest, they'll stay with you.
And I guess just on your point with Uber and taxi drivers, I think the reason why Uber is being very popular is because the transparency, which is what you spoke about.
Yeah.
You've got the guy's details, you've got the guy's phone number,
Yeah.
you've got a rating from other users,
Number plate.
Yeah. Whereas with a taxi driver, you don't have any of that.
You don't know.
You've got their license.
You don't even
number
know
and
how the meter works.
Yeah.
And that's a perfect example.
Yeah.
We look at taxi drivers, which are the old financial advisors, which just charge you this random figure for this random route that you don't know if it's even correct. Whereas there's a advisor like me that, you've got exactly who they are and what they do. It shows you exactly what route they're going to take you on, which Uber does. And at the end of the day, you know exactly what you're paying for because it's clearly disclosed.
Yeah.
And I guess that's a perfect analogy. Yeah.
How do you help your customers? Like other than the obvious, how do you help your customers? What sort of things do they achieve by speaking to you?
So I've been pondering this quote recently, and it was talking about how a good personal trainer takes you to the gym, they pump you for an hour, they smash you, and you're in and out, you don't even know what happened, you're sore, and the next day you're like, oh, I'm dependent and I'm gonna go to that gym because he's waiting for me there at 6 a.m. Whereas a good coach and a phenomenal coach brings you into the gym and they analyze you, they analyze your body, they look at your nutrition, they show you how to utilize the weights in the gym for your body, they show you how to use that gym for you, and they sort of work themselves out of your life.
Yep.
And I think financial advice is about discipline. And for me, how I help my clients is I work them out of a plan. So there's lots of instances where a client, I've done their initial strategy, and then they've sat me down when situations have changed and they write all this stuff down, and I'm like, you just graduated with a master's in financial planning because you've put together a plan. So for me, it's empowering the client for them to understand them. For them to understand their financial situation. That's all it is. It's just for me to be there for the questions that they can't answer, but for them to be able to find their own questions.
Why do you do what you do? I guess you touched on this initially, but why do you do what you do?
Why, when you ask me that, the first thing that comes into my mind is legacy.
Yeah.
So leaving something behind. So obviously, like, I didn't come from a rich family, and I didn't come from a place where money was always something that was easy to access or easy to understand. So for me to be able to create a legacy for, you know, even my future wife or my future children or my nieces and nephews now, my nephew just turned 18 and he's going to start working with me soon, that's a big reason. But in terms of the role as a financial advisor, I think the way I do things is very different to the industry, and I think I understand people in a different way. So for me, emotion is a big part of a financial plan, and a lot of advisors remove that emotion. So for me, why I do what I do is because I want to bring the emotion back into money, and I think that's the missing link.
Why did you choose to come into to do a podcast or a video?
Because you asked me to, and I thought your first episode would be the best one, so that's why I'm here.
So are you saying because you're the ones? Because are you saying that the one that you're on is going to be the best one?
Yeah, 100%. So who's your next one? Do you know who you're interviewing next?
Tweety Bird.
Okay, that would be your second best, yeah. So it's, you know how usually the last ones are usually the best ones? With this podcast, it's going to be like the best one, and it's just like progressively get worse. I think...
So don't watch anymore.
Yeah, no, this just end it here. I think for me, obviously number one, I want to support everything you do. And I think what you're doing here, you know, when I met you a year and a half ago,
yeah.
You had this stupid joke about MySpace, and he still says it, right? And for me, like...
It's a pretty cool joke.
It's terrible. So seeing your transition from someone that hated Facebook, hating Instagram, to now getting excited when you get a new Instagram follower, like that for me is a big thing. So if I can be there to support you on this journey and be part of this, I'd love to be the first one there. So.
What are 3 insider tips that you can give my audience?
Okay, I'll give you one very good one. The only reason financial advisors exist is not because we have the answers.
Yeah.
The answers are out there. They're on Google. We use software. We have a bit of education behind us, yes, agreed, but that can be sourced on the internet as well. But the reason why we exist is because we know what questions to ask, period. So the insider tip is just write your situation on a piece of paper. You know, like your name, your date of birth, your assets, your liabilities, your loans, etc. And then look at that and say, okay, what questions should I be asking myself based on this? So that's number one.
Okay.
Number 2, you need a group of professionals around you. You know, like, honestly, that's an insider tip. So for me, once again, I say I don't have all the answers, and I'm a good financial advisor, and I can be a broker, and I can be an accountant, and I can be a lawyer, and I can be all these things if I do the appropriate degrees, but I can't be good at those. And that's why I have a network of professionals around me.
Yep.
So even as an advisor, I have a mortgage broker like yourself, I have an accountant, I have a lawyer, I do CrossFit, I have a coach. I don't try and do CrossFit by myself, you know? So build a team around you, because your financial advisor has a team as well. And whether that be in your professional circle, whether that be in your friendship circle, or even just have a money friend. So have someone you can talk to about money, and try and expand that network with accountants, mortgage brokers, because that's what your financial advisor does.
That's okay.
Number 3, insider tip. Super's your biggest asset, probably, because imagine your first ever job, you started saving 9.5% of everything you've ever earned. That's what your super is doing. So ever since you've had your first job, 9.5% of your money is going in there. So an insider tip, and something that financial advisors make a lot of money from that they shouldn't, is just merging supers into one. So guys, just if you go on the ATO website, you can actually check where all your supers are, and you can go on websites like Host Plus or Australian Super, where they have comparison tools where you can load up all your supers, and it'll tell you which one's the best one based on your circumstances.
We might put it in the link. In the video.
Just like the free super check tool. But that, you know, check your super and get that sorted, because that's a really easy step.
And just to add to that, check your insurances within your super.
Yeah, that's right, because
premiums that come out.
Correct. And make sure that if you think you have a medical issue, that someone might not cover in the future, don't cancel all your insurances because you might not be able to get them elsewhere.
Okay.
So if you do have insurances and you have a medical issue, you should probably speak to a professional. But if not, and everything's fine, just merge it into one.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a general advice disclaimer.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
In what, 5 years, 10 years?
Well, depending on when you think you're going to grow up.
I want to be myself in 5 years right now, I guess. I remember like even as a kid, it'd always be like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And it was like, me in 20 years. You know, so I guess that's the same thing. I guess I've got this vision of who I am going to be in 5, 10, 20, 25 years.
Okay, let's say 20 years. What does that
mean?
look like?
When you ask me that, it means my mum with a backyard, 100%. So, you know, being able to facilitate a home that my parents can garden in, kids, 4, 5 kids, 3 at least.
Tarago?
The flexibility to work from, I have a Tarago in my garage actually, it's prepared. The flexibility to work from anywhere in the world. I'd like to know that I could possibly spend my late 30s in New York.
Okay.
So maybe in 20 years, yeah.
Exciting.
20 years I would have been over that hurdle already, and hopefully we're still friends in 20 years, and you're still a mortgage
I'm
broker.
thinking about 5 minutes. Okay, so I've got some questions specific to Arkadiusz because I know a little bit about Arkadiusz. I'd like to know more, so these are questions specific to you.
Okay.
All right. How important is it for people to receive financial advice from you?
From me personally, not very important. Okay, for me,
yeah.
So we'll talk about financial advice first, and then from me, I guess. As you know, I'm not a sales person where it's like you just use me and no one else. So 20% of Australians obtain financial advice. 20% of Australians retire without the government pension. Okay, so 80% of Australians don't seek financial advice. 80% of Australians retire with a dependence on the government pension.
Which is not much, as we all know.
Like, is that a coincidence? What's the factor there? You know, so the big thing is like having someone overlook your finances. Yes, it's going to cost you a little bit of money, but long term, there will always be a net gain.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think the difference between using me and why you should get financial advice from me is because I will help you achieve what you want to achieve. And that might not be, you might not care and you might be happy retiring on a government pension, but you might want to live in New York for 2 years. You might want to get married with your wife, or you might have not been on a holiday in 6 years, or you might have a credit card, and I'll help you overcome that hurdle, understand that hurdle, and take advantage of the situation moving forward.
Okay, well that's a good point, because a lot of people may see financial advice as insurances, getting a super and doing a budget.
No.
But I guess it's a lot more than that for your customers, and it might be to live in New York, like you said.
Yeah.
So there is that element of finances that are involved with that goal, and that's what a financial advice could be as well. So guys, if you've got something that you want to do, doesn't necessarily mean it's got to be money related. There's got to be a money element to it, and we can help you with that as well.
That's right, and a lot of financial advisors are changing their names to life coach and wealth advisor, and you know, and I'm a financial advisor. And the other day I sat with a client, she's like, no, you're a life coach. I feel like you're a life coach. I can be whatever you want me to be. Like one of my clients...
Just pay me. No.
Yeah. Like one of my clients calls me a money guru. So look, like I'm a financial advisor, but I guess that traditional aspect of a financial advisor is they're going to sell me some insurance and they're going to change my super.
Yeah.
Like the reality is, yes, we are going to look at your super, and yes, you have insurances inside your super, so we should look at those. But we'll also look at your goals, your needs, your objectives, and those are always a priority, and those are always something that we focus on.
Good point.
Yeah, good point.
What's the best advice you've given? So whatever the advice you've given, it's actually happened.
This is a real question.
You know, you've implemented it, and you sat back and go, you know what, that's awesome, because that person did that because of the advice that I gave them, and they're now happy.
There's like, I asked you this question just recently as well, and like we've had a recent win together. I think each client has their own best advice piece.
Yeah.
So it's extremely hard to pick one. There is one that really stands out, and I had a client that came to me, was earning exceptionally good money, and I guess it wasn't just one piece of advice, it was just the whole advice process. They owed money, they couldn't get out of debt, they wanted to get engaged to their partner, they wanted to live in London for 2 years, so we sort of took control of that. And then I helped them pay off that debt. Then they went to London for a holiday. Then they came back and they were like, no, I need to move to London now. They sat down, like I said, and they started writing out what they're going to do, how they're going to sell their car, pay off the loan. And he's like, this is what I'm going to do. And I was like, you should do that. You don't need me.
Yeah.
And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, you don't need me anymore. Like, I will help you outside of that. You don't need me. And I think that was actually one of the best pieces of advice I've given, that he doesn't need to pay me to figure that out himself, because he's already figured it out.
Yeah.
And now we're doing other things. So now he's looking to buy a first home, so I will re-engage him. But
Okay.
I think that was the best piece of advice. You don't need a financial advisor right now. Yeah.
It's contradictory, but
Yeah, but I
that's
think,
good. It's
yeah.
very good. It just shows that you're doing what you're doing, and it's working, I guess.
Yeah.
What's the most rewarding part of what you do? Your bank account?
No, definitely not.
You're gonna edit these out, eh?
Yeah, definitely not. Maybe hopefully one day, hopefully in 20 years I can look back at everything that I've done and be like, you know what? I should have charged what I did, but it all worked out. It all worked out. I should have told that guy to get financial advice because I couldn't pay my bills that month. Just seeing clients achieve that. Like the other day, like we did an event 8 weeks ago, just a lunchtime event for an hour, and someone came, we did a really simple saving strategy, and Oktay just got off the phone and they're about to buy their first home. You know, like being able to, and they said to me, they're like, if I didn't go to that lunchtime event, I'd still be where I'm at. I'm still be trying to save $5 a week because I spend all my money. And it's just trying to, the most rewarding part is just seeing people grow.
Yeah.
It really is. And I think
Yes. Same,
what's the most rewarding part for you?
Same. People taking a photo in front of their house and sending it to me, and first home buyers actually realising that they can get into the property market, but everyone else has told them you can't. So
My clients we have this thing where we have credit card ceremonies where we like burn and shred credit cards. So I had one client that went to really extremes, and he put it through a shredder and then lit it on fire and stuff, and sent me a video. I was like, you know, like that's exciting. It's fun. So seeing people
That's what we do.
enjoy it. Yeah.
And I think that's why we get along, because we share the same.
Do we get along?
No, I don't know. Do you give advice to other generations? I guess you do, but do you like giving advice to other generations? I know you touched on the older generation thinking you're younger, and that may be a challenge for you, but do you see older generations listening and have the same sort of passion and loyalty and commitment as your target market?
Yes and no. So like some people are like, you specialize in young advice, and they're like, what's young? I'm like, do you feel young? They're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, and that's you. You know, and I guess that's the thing. Like I've got a client and she's 56 years old.
Yeah.
I've got a doctor client, they're 62 years old, and we get along like a house on fire, and their strategy is really good and it's working and everything's there. But I guess it's just a mutual thing. You know, like sometimes what I find is people that have been so, habits are hard to break. It's just like smoking, right? If you're a smoker and you've been a smoker for 20 years, it's going to be extremely hard to quit. Whereas if you've been a smoker and you're 22 years old and you only started smoking when you were 18, a lot easier, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. Like if someone's 45 and they've carried credit card debt their whole life since 18, sometimes I find myself just working for nothing, and they take the advice on and they'll pay me, but they're not going to do it because they don't
change.
Yeah, and for me, I'm not giving value. Like, yes, I can make money, and once again, like I can go to high net worth 45-year-olds and charge a whole bucket load of money, but there's not going to be any change.
Yeah.
So for me, do I work with older generations and different generations? 100%. Do I enjoy it? 100%. But I want them to enjoy it too.
Yeah.
So does that answer that question? Yeah, it's just a mutual thing.
Okay. How can clients benefit from seeing both you and someone like me
Yeah.
in the one transaction.
Okay, 100%. So all my clients see Oktay first before they actually get a plan. And the reason why that is, I guess majority of people's goals, 95% of people I see, they want to eventually buy a home or they have a property already. So we're going to use people that don't have a property yet. They need to know how much they could potentially borrow, how much they could save, what that mortgage would look like. And rather than just assuming, why not include someone that is a master of that process? You know, so for me, for them to speak to a mortgage broker prior to that situation, it's a no-brainer. At least they have a relationship with you, you know how to guide them, and we put a strategy together. Even if that home is 2 years, 3 years, 4 years away, at least they have a roadmap and they've got someone to touch base with, because situations may change and you might provoke a thought that I may have not thought about. So remember how I talked about that network? You might provoke a thought that I haven't thought about or they haven't thought about. And we've seen that on many occasions.
And I do the same. So as we're getting a mortgage, Arkadiusz will review their insurances and see how they can protect their asset that they're purchasing.
And the biggest thing that we do, I think, something that a lot of people don't do, is prior to actually buying your home. So for example, what Oktay does is, if you're going through the loan process, he'll introduce you to me, and what we'll put together is a strategy where you're actually pretending to pay the mortgage prior to actually getting the mortgage. And we've seen on many occasions, just because the bank's willing to give you 800,000, you try and do those repayments, you can't actually afford them. So there's many occasions where we've halved of what the bank was willing to give because they wouldn't be able to pay that mortgage. So I think what we always do is we have a plan A, plan B, plan C, and seeing both of us prior to that will assist you on that road. I have a question for you.
What's your question?
So, obviously, like you're a mortgage broker.
Yes.
But you could be a financial advisor as well.
Yes.
So why aren't you?
I guess for the same reason. I don't want to be a master of none, a jack of all trades, master of none, because I feel that I can specialize and really bring value in one area, and that area is finance. And I would rather work with a team of people that can specialize in their specific area, and they can bring value to the table as well. And together, we can then add a bigger piece of value to the client as a team, rather than me trying to do everything. And other people have got different ways of doing things, and I've learned a lot from how you do things. And those sort of things are important to me, because
like what in particular? I'm just curious.
Just like Instagram, like this as a perfect example, getting onto socials. I was totally against it, and I've seen the impact that you have with your audience or on your audience, and I see what you do and how people can benefit from it. So I really noticed that there is a benefit of getting onto socials, whereas before I met you, it's like, it's all crap.
Word of mouth, etc.
Word of mouth. No, but even just socials, the idea was, it's all crap. What are you going to get from them? So those sort of things really help, and I really feel that a client can get maximum benefit by dealing with a group of professionals or trusted advisors, like one of my blogs. And I've noted that in one of my blogs how important this is, because we can collectively give you advice on achieving your goals, rather than just having one person's specific opinion, and which may be right or wrong.
That's right. And you asked me a question that sort of stunned me, so I'll ask you, where do you see yourself in, what do you want to be when you grow up?
What I want to be when what I want to be when I grow up is somebody that my son can look up to, and my family can look up to, and somebody that is trusted within the community and within like my group of clients, and just be that friend, trusted advisor to whoever I can help. That's what I want to say.
Awesome. So it seems like we're on the same journey.
Well, how did you like the Turkish tea?
Well, I finished mine and you didn't finish yours, so does that make me more Turkish than you?
Yeah, it's too cold now and then.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, Oktay.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Ben.